Welcome to our Blank Collar Meetup on Artificial Intelligence. My name is Alexia Vitasse, and I'll host you tonight for our meetup. I'm going to give you a quick introduction about us at the Blank Collar. Then we're going to have the speeches from our two guest speakers, followed by a discussion round here, and then a Q&A session where we invite you to ask all of your questions, no matter how basic and simple to how complicated. We'll try and answer them as best as possible. At the Blank Collar, we focus on emerging trends and technologies and try to figure out how they're going to impact society and how they shape the future of work. And tonight, we're going to focus on artificial intelligence. So what exactly is artificial intelligence? Beyond being a broad field of computer science, it's different techniques that allow computers and machines to mimic human behavior. So where we have all the skills that our brain can do, we have movement, we've got robotics in the field of artificial intelligence. Where we have reading and writing, we have natural language processing. Where we are now, how does artificial intelligence actually work? How does the computers do what we want them to do? It's basically a set of algorithm or rules that they have to follow. So they become kind of one task masters. And until now, that's how it's been. But now we have so much data and so much increase in processing power that artificial intelligence is becoming smarter and actually learning based on reinforcement learning for what's right and what's wrong and allowing them to become more independent. The innovations that we have today are things like self-driving cars, we have Netflix recommendations, we've got increases in health such as IBM Watson, we have super specific campaigns online campaigns which we'll hear about from our speaker Peter. And on the other hand, we have to protect ourselves from data being breached or accessed from other people. So our companies and ourselves, we can protect ourselves with different cybersecurity. So I'd like to introduce to you our first speaker, Peter Metzinger. He is co-founder and CEO of Business Campaigning and AI Intelligence. And he's going to tell you all about campaigning with artificial intelligence. So please welcome Peter to the stage.
Talking about artificial intelligence, I'd like to give some use cases and an outlook. The use cases that I would like to show are basically voting campaigns. It's been more than a year that we used artificial intelligence for the first time. And what you see here is analysis that was produced on a daily basis for us during the voting on the reform of the retirement system in Switzerland last year. What artificial intelligence did here was that we were able to analyze online issues, online discussions, and how people and topics influenced each other, and who were the influencers. And this is something that can be done by hand. We've always done it by hand. I've been in campaigning since 1982, and we've always done these analysis, but in this case, we used a neural network to collect all the data and analyze those data for us so that we had daily recommendations. Like in this case, we could see the president of the Young Liberals, where he has his followers. This is something you can do by hand, but in this case, we got it just like every day in seconds. What we also did was we analyzed individuals. You can produce a very specific personality profile of a person that tells you exactly how to communicate with that person, what to avoid, and how you can convince that person. This was done before the European data protection regulation was in force. It's an anonymized profile. Today we couldn't store these data anymore, but it's still possible, and it's based on online information that is publicly available. All you need to do is publish 300 words, a text of 300 words, and we can find out who you are. In this case, that's another voting campaign, was a regional voting campaign. We were able to analyze all the influences in that region and see what topics would lead to which reactions and it also gave us the information which of two messages would be the best message. So we identified the best working slogan for this voting campaign, and I can't tell you the exact figure, but the result was something between 75 and 100%, somewhere in between. Can't give you the exact figure because then you could find out which campaign it was and which vote. Artificial intelligence tells us who is in which networks and finds the right tonality for the communication. We use it in public relations. In this case, we produced such profiles before a journalist would call. You know, you get a call by a journalist, you don't know that journalist, so you can have this profile and you know exactly how to convince that journalist that your product is the best or your story is the best. Of course, this is nothing new really. What is new here is if I have the LinkedIn profile of somebody, I can call my colleague and he will give me this profile within 5 minutes. And within 5 minutes, I will know exactly how to convince that person of my story. We've been talking a lot about artificial intelligence recently, I mean, as a society, but I think we should also have a look at how does it actually work, because many people don't really understand how it works, and in order to understand the possibilities, it's good to have a look at this. You have heard the word neural network. It's basically, it's a layer of let's call processors that are connected to each other, and you put data in there. That's the input. And the network does something with that data. You don't know exactly what the output will be, but there will be some output. Now you have to tell the network if this output is what you expected, if it's right or it's wrong, like a little child, this is good, this is wrong. And the network will learn to produce the right output. That's basically, it's like teaching a child. It's nothing different. And what you need data, then you let the network do something with that data. You train the network what's right and what's wrong. So you also need to know what's right, what's wrong. And then once it has learned that kind of task, then the network can work on its own. AI is very good at repetitive tasks that require some kind of experience, and that's the difference to the old software. So it's nothing different from what we do, but AI can do it much cheaper and can do it much faster. And this will be the difference in the quality. So far it's only difference in quantity, but the difference in quality will be, we will be able to identify patterns that we would not be able to identify because we would simply not have enough people to analyze all those data. And therefore I believe that everything can be automated which repeats itself. I found this statement by the World Economic Forum which I found really interesting, and it says that the capital of banks is not the money, it's the data and the ability to provide personalized services. So we will also move to a very personalized service. Moving from like current advertising that where everybody sees the same billboard, we will move to advertising where every person will see a message designed for that person. And only those people who are receptive, receptive for the message. So in the outlook, I think there are 3 phases, and I've seen yesterday a slide which is basically exactly the same at a conference. Today we're having the narrow AI. Narrow means that this training is done for one use case, like the analysis of political discussions in one case, or personality profiles in another case. So these various AIs can perform one task, and they will work as an assistant. On the next level, they will still be kind of narrow, I think, but they will start making recommendations by themselves. So they will start thinking with us. And then at some point, some people believe we will have the Singularity Revolution, where we're talking about a general AI, where all these AIs that were narrow and disconnected will connect each other and form an intelligence that will be beyond the human intelligence. Some people say this is going to happen in the year 2035. I don't know if this is going to happen then, but I'm sure the possibility is there, and even if it doesn't happen, it's worth thinking about it, because it will only help us to get better at what we do. Thank you.
So next up, I'd like to introduce to you our next speaker, Sandra Tobler. She is CEO and co-founder of Futurae Technologies. They focus on two-factor authentication in cybersecurity. And so I'd like you to welcome Sandra to the stage.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Tobler. I'm co-founder and CEO of Futurae. So in a world of ever-increasing data generation and digitalization, data theft is actually on top of the radar of every single company. You cannot solve those threats with static software products as you have done it in the past. Hackers need to have a barrier that is as high as possible to get access to sensitive user data. And a new generation of cybersecurity companies is addressing this new challenge that is constantly evolving. And I will quickly introduce you to the world of our startup called Futurae. And we're addressing data theft with elements of machine learning, and are also framing this new way of building software of the future. So let me start a bit with what Peter has done, putting into context what actually machine learning means in the area of cybersecurity. So machine learning can be seen as a way of improving a task based on experience. So basically, we teach a system, we create a model that is the benchmark for what is considered as normal. And there are various applications of machine learning already in use today that we are confronted every day with, but we may be not aware of. To give you some ideas, spam filters or malware detection are fairly well evolved already. So broader speaking, machine learning is detecting anomalies. So what we have to do is we need to define what is a normal behavior and what is deviating from a normal behavior. What could be malicious activities that are, for instance, someone trying to get access to our sensitive web application, or malware, or even a malicious employee who is frustrated with what he does. This can all be potential harmful behavior we want to identify. So there are two phases. The first phase is you train the system based on this model that you have identified with what you consider normal behavior. So this is based on past data sets. You need to train this algorithm to have something as a benchmark, as a baseline. The second phase then would be that you would have the future data coming in, where you can detect what is deviating from this so-called model you have created. So that's new data coming in, which are also including threats. So ultimately, the goal of this exercise is to detect attacks when they're happening in real time. And the basis for all of that this is going to be successful, is that you have training data. So training data is something you need to collect in large amounts and have samples that are in good quality, that are comparable, unless your algorithm will not going to work. What brings us to some limitations. So one limitation is if you have maybe not trained the system enough with training data, what could have happened is that the system doesn't even detect the attacks coming in. And this is so-called false negative. When you have a false positive, the system is basically flagging normal behavior as negative behavior or malicious behavior. So both of these two you want to avoid. I mean, the first is obvious, your system is not going to be secure. The second, false positives, although you are able to detect what is wrong, malicious behavior, what does it bring when you have also flagged a lot more normal behavior as negative? And you need to do a lot of manual effort to basically go in and sort them out. So in a nutshell, all good basis is a large set of training data. Again, to come to applied cases today, spam filters or malware detection are typically areas where you have large sample data in high quality that you can use to train the system. There are other areas that are still evolving, like to give you an idea, network traffic analysis is something where you have per default, from the pure nature, maybe a bit less databases. But let's come to our case, data theft. 95 passwords are stolen every single second. The problem is we all use the same passwords for different applications and use the similar easy passwords that are easily to guess. So this problem can be solved with so-called two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. 80% of all the data breaches that are due to those weak login credentials can be avoided. How come we hate it and don't use it? Think of you in your social media accounts, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram has now two-factor authentication. Exactly, it is painful to use, so we hate to enable it. It's creating friction through our user experience. There are some new technologies out there in research and some in industry that try to address the problem of seamless authentication. Some have a bit of limitations, however, they become better and better over time. To give you some ideas, behavioral technologies try to identify you and make login secure based on the way you type. There you need to again have a critical amount of training data to teach the system how to do it. This can be prone to mistakes. Think of you having different keyboards with higher or lower keys. Other examples are voice recognition. Voice recognition also implies you need to train the system with voice pattern that it recognizes which one is the right and the wrong. Unfortunately, with advances of machine learning, you can also improve the quality of faking every single voice. So the problem is not always clear-cut. And what we strongly believe is that not one solution fits all needs in the market. How do we solve the problem of two-factor authentication? So basically, I show you quickly how it works, and then I explain what happens. This is a web page that has enabled two-factor authentication with our technology called Zero Touch. So all you need to do is have your mobile phone close by, in your pocket, and you have an app or a so-called software kit in an app, and when you log in, you enter username and password, and in no time, you are securely authenticated. So this whole authentication process did not take longer than 2 to 3 seconds, and you are securely authenticated without having to do something with your mobile phone. What we use is machine learning elements to prove proximity of both devices by quickly taking small snippets of ambient noise, comparing with the algorithm on the device, and the user is securely authenticated. On top, we use ultrasounds and as well sensor signals to log in into any type of devices like laptops, tablets, or even conversational interfaces like Alexa. We also have the sensor signals that can log into any single device authentication. Think of you using a mobile banking app. So what this property does offer to use zero touch without interacting with the device token when logging in is that you can have a user continuously authenticated throughout a user session without having to do something. The same property also allows you to authenticate to future-proof devices like conversational interfaces, where you don't want to fiddle with SMS codes or hardware tokens, which are typically technologies that you're used to use today. So in a nutshell, for us it's important to put the human in the center of any type of interaction to securely give him access to any type of sensitive data or to execute a sensitive operation while keeping the privacy on top. So we never know at any time in the moment who the user is. By just providing the so-called second layer of defense, two-factor authentication, we do not know who the first authentication layer, basically the user, is. So that said, thank you for your attention, and apologies for the hiccup.
Really AI right now, and how can it help us to make a better life for us right now, not in 10 years?
Currently, it's actually very primitive because it can. AI today is only able to perform one task, but it's like a third arm, or it's an extension of our capabilities, and we can use it to do more. In our case, we are able to analyze much more than we would be able before. We wouldn't have the budget to hire a dozen people to do permanently the analytics that we can do through AI. So currently it just helps us to do more.
How is it that AI can actually help us to get more secure? Like, what's the possibility to make humans more smarter with the help of data that's being generated?
I think with the advances of computing power, you can, for the first time, on the one hand, create attacks that are more sophisticated than they were in the past. On the other hand, you also can build regimes that are protecting in a faster pace that a human would not be able to do. So sorting out malicious attacks from not malicious type of interaction is extremely high-paced. And at this stage, only technology can help us address it.
You said something about normal versus abnormal. When I talk about, when I think about AI, who is actually creating AI? It's us. Mm-hmm. So when you say normal and unnormal, who defines what's normal and abnormal? Because, just to get one step back, if it's humans who say what's normal and abnormal, what does it mean for AI? Is AI now really intelligent, or is it just making stupidity more advanced?
I mean, I had it on my slide, but I didn't elaborate more, actually. I think one of the exposures of machine learning as it is used today is it's always a value system that is underlying by the one that creates it. So it's never neutral. So the benchmark or the model that you create is always based on assumptions that someone created.
Peter, what do you think? Especially because you're very good at campaigning, and it's something that comes out of a decision, of a mindset. If we transfer this mindset into AI, and we say AI, it's artificial intelligence, and this intelligence is being transported through a human. What does it mean from your point of view?
If the artificial intelligence is transported to a human?
Well, through a human, because it's let's say, for example, the algorithm is being currently, we are not talking about 10, 15 years in the future. Yeah. We're talking right now. These algorithms are being written by humans. So it's human...
They're not algorithms. The algorithms are written by humans, yes, but then they are trained which outcome is good and which outcome is not good. So this training, if that training is biased, then the AI will never produce useful results. What you need is a database, and you need you need a clear, like a judgment system, or you need clear values that tell you what's right and what's wrong.
Who says what's right, what's wrong?
That's humans, that's trainers. And that's going to be probably a profession for the future, training AI.
We as humans, we have capabilities, which is being, we are people who can talk to each other, we are creative, etc. And artificial intelligence right now is not creative. So in the future of work,
It's not true.
what do you mean?
About 2 years ago, we had the first case when an AI produced a Christmas song. It sounded like composed by a 5-year-old child, but I don't know where that software is now, 2 years later.
And this is maybe something that's really important. AI, is it currently a child? And what happens if it goes to puberty? Because we know what happens with people if they go through puberty. So when we talk about AI and it's right now a child, and we don't teach it well, what's going to happen?
I mean, already the child is very talented in solving some of the issues today. So I wouldn't call it as a child. I think use cases will be a lot more sophisticated in the future with an increase of the power when, again, as you rightly so said, existing data sets can be used for various applications and there is a smart integration of those. Then the power of AI can fully be leveraged with. I wouldn't call it a kid.
Well, if it's not a kid, it's still not an adult. Artificial intelligence is able to reproduce language. And you say you are somebody who's in the security sector. And something that's popping up very much in the past few months is fake news. How much is AI going to enable fake news? It's already, like, I'm pretty sure several people already saw those videos where you can see like Obama or Bush talking, or even I think the Russian president Putin talking stuff that's not real. So in the future, like, how is AI, how can you distinguish fake news with AI, for example? Do you have an opinion about this?
I mean, I would rather say for this exact reason, voice is not maybe the best means. In general, we are very reluctant in security to use biometrical traits because they are, with machine learning advances, replicable. Voice is the best example. You don't need a lot as a baseline to basically fake every voice with no effort. So, I mean, we are playing around with voice authentication systems, how fast we can intercept them. And we would not consider, it's always better than nothing, and it always depends on the use case, what you want to secure. But if it's a high security environment, when we talk about financial data, personal data, we would most probably not go down that road.
Security is going to be one of the biggest issues right now that we are facing in the future. When I say future, I don't, like, in the past when we said future, we were talking about 5 to 10 years. Future now means like 1 to 3 years. So what is an example of something that you say voice can be easily copied, for example? What is something that cannot easily be copied through AI?
I mean, what we do?
Yeah.
Basically, we take into account context of a user. Instead of the user, him or herself, that is a clear trait of identifiable information, which can be, again, the way someone types, the way someone has his face or has his fingers.
Location too?
What we take into account is the context of the user, which is an abstract concept. And it's changing, is every time different. And we use machine learning there because we believe it's the highest level of privacy. There is no such thing as absolute security. Everyone who works in security knows that. And for us, it's very, very sensitive to start with something that cannot be replaced or revoked in one way. And that's, for us, very important. And machine learning can there have a big impact, in our view.
When we look at the big companies like Facebook, Google, whatever, let's take Google for account. They say AI first. So right now we have phones and we have apps. In the future, they're not going to be apps, it's going to be voice. But what's behind the voice is AI. So you are very deep into this subject, for example, when it comes to UX, user experience. What does it mean? What is AI as a user experience? Because it's not an app anymore. It's not voice. So
It's an assistant. It's nothing else but an assistant. And voice is only one channel. But for example, in the office, I don't dictate because I don't want the others to be disturbed by it. Or maybe I don't even want them to know what I'm writing. But when I'm at home, I don't switch on my coffee machine anymore. I say computer trigger on the coffee machine.
You already do this?
Yeah.
Like how? Like, do you have an Alexa, Google Home?
Alexa, yes, but Alexa listens to computer because Star Trek, you know.
You changed the name, right?
I say computer trigger on the coffee machine, or computer tell Digitalstrom that I want the light in the kitchen to be turned on, and it works.
We talk about AI as if it's something in the future. It's already something that everybody's using right now. Every time you use Amazon, every time you use Zurich, every time you use Google Home, every time you use Google, it's already AI. It's just, I think good AI is like something, it's like a good product placement. It's when you recognize it, like when you see it in a movie or in a commercial, you say, oh my God, it's bothering me. But if it's so good that it's placed very well, it's a part of your life. So AI, it's
an assistant.
It's an assistant, or it's an intelligent assistant?
No, it's an assistant. Currently, it's an assistant.
So it's not intelligent?
Not yet. Well, that's a question. How do you define intelligence? We don't even know what that means. We have, like the IQ. What does it really mean? Who is intelligent, and what kind of intelligence are we talking about?
When we talk about intelligence, currently we are working with very simple computers. But when it comes to security, and this is maybe another topic, but just in general, when we talk about quantum computing and AI and the security, because right now we have like very sophisticated algorithms that can protect you. But what happens if computing power is going to get so high together with AI? What happens then? Is there any kind of way to be secure anymore?
That's what I meant with constantly changing the threat. I mean, you need to be ready to address the worst type of threats. And they're incrementally changing. I mean, it's not going to be a big bang once one day quantum cryptography is here. So we need to constantly look out for what potential technology advances could impact threat models. And that's, I think, the biggest change is really the mindset to not think in terms of I install a product, check mark, but to constantly validate how could threats change on a social engineering level, on a technology level, and stay close to that and not assume you already lost the moment you feel yourself safe. Then that's the checkmate.
We are, actually everybody I think in this room is already AI enabled. Like the second, I don't have my phone with me right now, but the phone is, yeah, okay, you have, but this is actually AI already on us. So are we already cyborgs? And when we talk about the blank collar is a cyborg. It's somebody who is still a human, but has its flaws, and is AI the solution how to be able to reduce these flaws, to become a much more complete person? Is this something that AI can do for us?
Are we already cyborgs? Yes. I mean, I would consider, and I have to admit myself, the mobile phone is an extended part of myself. I mean, without mobile phone, I'm literally lost in my daily life. And machine learning is an incremental part of that phone and that experience, as you well described. I think this will evolve over time, but we in research are looking very much into is how will interfaces happen in the future? Will it still be a screen we're connecting to? Most probably not. So most probably will be some kind of speaker, microphone situation where you can interact with that becomes as the new normal, as the new extended you or interface. And yes, so it's already part of us in our lives with advances still yet to come.
Like, where do you see AI enabling us as a company, as humans, as society in the next, because we cannot talk again about the next 5 to 10 years, that's too far away. What's happening in the next 2 or 3 years?
Well, I'm talking about what's going to happen in 5 or more years. Or maybe it's going to happen earlier, but when it comes to my work, talking about marketing, for example, I believe, and we're actually already working on that, that an AI will have all the information and the knowledge to deliver the right message at the right time to the right person. And all that I need to do is give some kind of input and do the creative work that the AI can't do yet. Like I gave a speech in 2014 where I presented a scenario like I had produced a stand for a motorbike, special stand, and it's so unique that only a few people in the world would ever buy it. Okay, but it's not a problem because it will be 3D printed anyway. So logistics is not a problem. Everybody has a 3D printer at home. The question is, how do I reach the right people? And I don't know. I can't run a worldwide advertising campaign for selling just a few of these motorbike stands. But the network knows which kind of people would be interested, where they live, on which platforms they are, and how to address them. So all I need to do is create that motorbike stand, feed the data into the marketing software, and the marketing software will sell. And people will print it at home. I don't even need to deliver it. And I have the money on my account.
So let me ask the final question for right now. Like, let's start with you, Sandra. Will AI help us to become better, to have a better life? How do you think it's going to help us as a person, but also at work to become better and with doing less, but creating more?
I mean, I see it a bit like in sailing. If you have a really strong wind, like an orkan type of wind, and you're capable of navigating to your benefit with your sailing boat, it can be such a powerful tool, and you do with it whatever you want. You go wherever you want. However, if you don't know how to deal with it, it's going to be a backfire and potentially harmful.
There was a time when I thought I could look into the future. I could clearly see what's coming, and this has changed about 2 years ago. And the development is so fast. I can't believe how many applications of AI there are already, and how many conferences. I was yesterday at a conference. The last 2 weeks, I think I was at 5 conferences about AI, and I saw all those different applications. It's just unbelievable how fast this happened or is happening. And I wouldn't make any prediction about or forecast about what's going to be in 2 years.
Because it's not possible.
First time in my life I have the feeling I have no idea.
And I think, maybe to add, AI is kind of the basement for all the other technologies to have really drivers. So with the advances of how you can process data and make systems learn how to react, that's basically the basis for everything else.
You mentioned blockchain. I was here at the last meetup. Blockchain will allow us to have possession of our data. Facebook will belong to the past in a few years because through blockchains like Ethereum offers, we can have our data stored and we can decide who can do what with our data. That will change everything. Then you have the possibility to do transactions, small transactions. And now imagine this with the support of AI. We will see completely new business models, but what will remain below the line will be that we can focus on those things that make us really human, which is social interaction, creativity, empathy. We will have the trend to the machines, the mega trend to the machines on one side, on the other one to the humans.
This is something that I believe also myself. AI is going to make us human again. Because if you think about it, people were humans before, then came the industrial revolutions where we became robots, and everybody was has to be one purpose, one problem, you have to solve it. And AI is going to enable us to become generalists again, humans again. Because a human is not somebody who's going to only do one thing. A human is somebody who is going to do lots of things, because this is how we are. And I think think we can stop it on this is AI makes us again human.
I would like to have a question to Peter about the quality of the prediction of profiling people, because I assume there will be a demand on the market to start to tweak your profiles. How will it impact the prediction if it's becoming massive? I mean, everybody will have the same profile to stand out or to achieve their targets.
Well, not everybody will have the same profile, because we are all different personalities. So the personality profile will be different. About the quality, when I saw the first profile I saw was we're working with Liquid Newsroom. They are our providers for AI, and we are doing PR work for a startup. And our Steffen from Liquid Newsroom, he knew that they were going to receive a call by a journalist, and he sent that profile to them. And I was CC'd in the email, and I saw the profile of that guy. He didn't know that I know this guy since 25 years. We used to block nuclear shipments on railroad tracks when we were working for Greenpeace back in the 90s. So I know this guy really well, and I was just astonished how precise this profile was. There were other profiles that were not that precise, but it's just like you would do it by yourself, and some are better, some are not as good. The difference, and this is also something I can't say what the impact will be. Currently it's not possible anyway because of the European data protection regulations. We're trying to find out how much is allowed and how much and where are the limits. But yeah, if it will change the way we meet people if we are able to go to that website and order the profile and know exactly who we're going to meet. It will change the quality of the discussions.
And is it legal right now to profile people?
That's what we don't know
LinkedIn?
now.
Okay.
That's what we'll have to invest some money in order to find that out.
Well, I have another one for Peter. We come out of a very kind of heated discussion about voting manipulation and about this whole Cambridge Analytica thing. How do you ensure that your neural networks are not fed false positives by some malicious foreign power? How do you ensure that the people of the canton of Aargau are not predicted falsely because your neural networks are fed some wrong data?
You can never be sure about that. Just like today, without AI, I can never be sure if I make the right recommendation. I'm currently involved in a campaign where we are discussing, are we going to do the press conference on Friday or Monday? You don't know. You never know. Experience can tell you that with the biggest probability, Monday is going to be better, but there's never a security on that. It will increase the success rates probably, but there will be never 100% certainty.
And the more there are data scientists, the more there are people that can validate the algorithm, how it has been trained based on what model. So it's like, I think one of the big problems today is also that you have a few elite people that can frame systems. And the more this is mass knowledge, the more the quality must eventually increase.
Well, you know what this shows me? This shows me we have to have a new subject at school, which should be ethics.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
Because if you don't have ethics, how are you going to create algorithms that are unbiased?
And another question about passwords. Do you think the future of passwords will be that we still have like an actual password? Because I think that's where a lot of the insecurity stems from.
Absolutely. I mean, in our view, we could already replace passwords entirely, as long as you have two different traits, which can be something you have, which can be a secure phone in one as an example, and something you are or you do. Let's say there's some elements that you can train to clearly identify you by some type of behavior. These are elements you can already combine, not using any classical traditional knowledge token like a username and password. I think it should always be a combination of elements to add security, but that said, it really depends on the use case.
Is there a way for the machine learning system, let's say a neural network, to unlearn from data? So let's say I'm a customer, I'm right now, using your product, and you've trained your networks on my data, and tomorrow I don't like your, product anymore. I say I want to quit. Give me my data back. So can you, remove that part of intelligence which was, generated by my data? I know it's like probably a R&D question, but, do you see a possibility where, customers can opt out of a service and the artificial intelligence system unlearns from that data, from that person's data? Is it possible?
I think the questions with this is it's actually the easiest way to unlearn from that, because humans, like if you want to forget something, it's very hard to forget. But if you are a machine, it's really easy to forget, because you only have to understand what you would like to forget.
No, actually not. Like, all right, let's say we're profiling people. Now you look at similarities. Let's say I like chocolates, and let's say there's someone who likes chocolate, and because he likes chocolate, there's something else like an add-on to it, something which goes with with chocolates. Now, so because I chose that, there's a possibility that the AI would recommend the same thing to another person. Now, if it wants to forget that, someone who eats chocolate also eats this other thing, it's really hard. It doesn't know where it learned it from. Like in the abstract, in the space of AI, it doesn't know where the data came from. It just generates intelligence. You need to remove that part of intelligence from a specific data. Can you map data to the intelligence which was generated? Like you can forget facts. You cannot forget skills, can you? They decay. You don't forget a skill. So you're here, trying to recommend something. It's kind of a skill for the AI. It learned how to do this. How do you forget it? It's not as trivial, I guess.
I think you have to retrain it. But you're right. Normally, it doesn't forget it. It doesn't.
Just
was right. It's skill. You don't
the whole of
skill.
Google search engine. No? Let's say I opt out of Google today. Just imagine retraining the whole of Google, search engine just because one guy opted out. Like, this is a question to be asked. So that's the reason. I'm not trying to, make a huge scene, but then this is a question to be asked. That's it.
No, I think exactly you're touching a very sensitive point, and I would say the data privacy regulation, GDPR, is exactly trying to address that everyone has at any time the right to go to companies to get access to everything that has been recorded, which is in reality, in fact, absolutely illusionary that this can be done. But the underlying concept is exactly that, the right that you can see, transparently know what has been trained about you and getting access to it to influence it eventually, or to delete it.
So AI is based on the facts. How far do you think AI will go with emotions?
What exactly do you mean with?
I mean, you can learn a computer to react to a certain situation, but do you think you can learn a computer to act with emotions? I mean, a human is different in every situation, and he acts with a discussion, he acts this way. And do you think a computer can learn on how to react based on someone's voice, someone's face, or?
Facebook is doing that already. They already analyze emotions in faces. So the next step is to train an AI to react on different emotions. Once you recognize the emotions, it's easy to teach different behaviors based on emotions. That
It's
is
not
going to
if the feeling per default, but it's taking it, decomposing it to traits that you can assign to feeling.
But I think emotions are unpredictable, especially in humans.
And the machines not?
Sorry?
Like, it's a question if machines can become emotional?
No, if a machine can predict emotions depending on what the machine
Predicting,
does,
yes, I'm pretty sure.
So the machine can learn to manipulate us like my wife would do. Yes, of course. I mean, why not? Why not? If the machine learns to get to know you, I don't see why the machine couldn't start manipulating me.